All right, I don't get a chance to do this that often, right? Because Andrew always yells at me and says, when I do an intro, we don't have time for an episode because my intros are the whole episode. So, but I had to take this one because here we are in the midst of our awesome 10 for 10 in the hobby. We're bringing in, folks, influencers, you name it, folks who have been in the hobby, folks who are changing the landscape of the hobby. And I'm really excited today for Mark Zablow of Bleecker Trading. And I can't wait to just get into it with him because, just a quick intro from me. Mark has brought a lot of fun back to the hobby for me. I mean, he's built a destination in New York where there was not one before. And I've been, living and working in New York for 20 plus years. And to be able to take a subway down to Bleecker and walk in, and it's like I feel like Norm walking at the Cheers, like Norm, it's like it's a hangout, it's a spot where everybody knows your name. You walk in, it is someone will give you a cigar, someone will give you a soda, beer, there's pizza, there's food, there's trading out in the back, there's outdoors, indoors, it's a hangout spot. It's just a really cool vibe. And I'm just excited to welcome Mark Zablow. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cage Goldberg. It's exciting to be on one of these. I don't get to do these often, so when I heard what you guys were doing and what you wanted to talk about, I was super stoked. I think in full transparency, the fun part of this is it proves that being a sponsor can make you one of the 10 most influential people in cards in your guys' eyes. So appreciate you welcoming me to the show. Appreciate you welcoming us to the podcast, the family as one of your new partners, and just really excited that you guys are continuing to push the needle forward in the hobby. I think for Bleecker, that's one of the biggest things for us is what continues to move the hobby forward, what elevates the hobby as a brand overall to the public. I think we believe in rising tides lift all boats. So I'm excited about what you guys are doing.
Mark, I'll jump right into it then, right? You've created a brand, right? I mean, you see the Bleecker hat behind me. Gary V won't take this off his head. I mean, we got the Bleecker shirts. You see people all over the place wearing these things. My kids want to wear it to camp. And people are asking, I've seen that. Where did I see that? It's almost like become.
It may have gotten Ian elected as the mayor of the camp.
It may have, but it's become like the supreme. It's like the the cool thing for the cool kids to wear. And what's funny about it is that's what I think you're bringing to the hobby. That's what I think you with Bleecker Trading, with the hangout, with the brand. It's something that hasn't been here in a while. It's sort of like an infusion of culture into cards. And with that, here's what I got to ask you, right? We just got back from the National, and what Andrew's trying to build here is people's take on the National. And we've gotten people who have been there, and you've been there before, but now with Bleecker as the backdrop, forget about the cards, forget about the deals you made, right? There are people who have touched on what they would do different if they were in charge. Now, the National's fun. The National's great. We all got together. It was great to meet people, put faces to names, especially after 2 years. But someone like you, who does this for a living, right, who is an event guy, we're not crapping on the National per se, but let's just say I gave you the ability with all the money in the world to change some things, to add some things to the National. What would you change? What would you do differently? And I'm going to shut up, put myself on mute, because I have a feeling you can go for a little while.
And by the way, Ken responded that he would have 2 security guards instead of 1. So just to give you context of what
I will say the biggest thing at the National was probably Ken's security guard. So let's just shut that down now. Cage, that's a loaded question that I paid you to ask. So thank you. Look, for us at Bleecker, I always like to say, like the card collecting industry is a hobby for some people and investment for others. It's a hobby for us. Yes, we run a marketing agency. Our job is to bring cool factor to brands. When the world shut down and cards really were kind of what there was to do being in New York City, there was nowhere to go. There was just nowhere to even celebrate, enjoy the hobby. There was really nowhere to buy a card saver. And so we had opened Bleecker really as a social club, really in that element, a place we want to hang out, go talk about cards. We didn't have a GTS account. We didn't have, that type of access into PSA to get cards graded or subbed or anything like that. We just, we were lifelong hobbyists, and we were able to kind of put that passion together of what we do with helping brands become cool, and then kind of looking at the card industry and saying, well, it's pretty natural for us to just start a brand. And kind of, go from there. I think when you ask what we would do differently, I think you got to go back to even a lot of one of your earlier episodes with Dan Fleischman. I was at that same national that Dan talks about. And while he was with Gary, I was maybe 10, 20 feet behind them. I was actually listening to a lot of Gary's content on the way to the national. Gary's opinion on Magic Johnson rookies and some of the other things above the LeBrons and the Jordans and things like that. And what I saw was this crazy influence that, yeah, every dealer ran up to Gary. But when you talk to those dealers 10, 20 feet after, and you'd be like, why do you like 40, 50-year-old men go nuts over Gary V? And they basically said was whether I'm a fan of his or not, there's no one else here that's going to drive any awareness to this hobby outside of Sports Collectors Daily. Nothing's getting on the news. Nothing's crossing over on Instagram. They didn't even know what Instagram was at the National in 2019, most of these dealers. And so what excited me about this hobby as someone who, let's call it, peddles and influence, was you saw what the hobby was doing. It didn't take anyone smart to see LeBron rookies and this and this and this, as people mentioned. But what I saw was that if Gary V can drive that much awareness to what was going on, what happens when Rick Ross buys the Jordan 10? What happens when Rick Ross says that's as cool as a Rolex? And that's kind of the world that I understand very well. And so I started as a hobbyist and as a collector investing in that mindset. And when the opportunity came to launch Bleecker, we knew we wanted to launch this social club, but we really weren't sure what we wanted it to be. What we knew was the hobby needed some cool factor. When you talked about the card store, when you talked about the people in it, it was The Simpsons. It wasn't cool. Gary really brought a lot of those people in it that made it cool. The music artists, the athletes, and really what I don't think Gary gets credit for is what's real influence. DJs and music artists and athletes are influence, but the agents, the managers, the publicists, the people that really make the wheels turn, that really flow in Gary's circles, the people behind the people and the people behind those people, that had the chance to make it cool. So I think what we tried to do with Bleecker was be that vessel in New York City. And New York City, especially where we are, downtown, West Village, fashion, something comfortable, something cool, something that plays nostalgia to New York and to the brands. That fit in very well. Nothing we invented. That's what's in with culture right now, and that's what's very relevant. So to your point, we've had a lot of fun, and I think a lot of short-term success making a relevant brand, getting it on a ton of great people, really making it something that, people that just live in the area, young women that we wish came to the national, are writing us saying, hey, can I just get a shirt that says Bleecker? Can I get a hat? It just has that cultural relevance. And so you think about what happened with cards over the last year and even the little tiny bit that we're able to contribute. And then you think about this national we've been denied for over a year. And we're all, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? And we're going to Rosemont and everybody's going. And the amount of people, I think I saw some great stats. I don't remember if it was Cardboard or who, but it was like 50-something% of people at the National were brand new. Think about how many podcasts or so many breakers have never been there before. And then you go there and it's the same fucking thing from 2001. There's absolutely nothing different. And so, what was the complaints I got from all the cool people that showed up or all the people that came excited was it wasn't cool. It just wasn't cool.
Can we touch on that? Because you talked about a few things there. And I always compare the card hobby, the card industry, to kind of cryptocurrency, right? And crypto was nerds until like 2019, 2020, when it became cool, right? They would get Tom Brady to make those laser eyes to hold Bitcoin. You all had all these micro influencers. And you're right, dude, you run a marketing agency. You understand. And cool is probably what's culturally relevant is how we could define cool.
Correct. You can talk pop culture and I just want to be the coolest kid, or to me, a scoring king is art, whether it's worth $10 or it's a PSA 10 and I couldn't even get one at the show. Now it was my chase card. That's fucking art. So did I just kill your monetization? I'm sorry.
No, not at all.
We don't do that. We don't do that. Go ahead and do your thing.
But yes, that's what I mean by cool. To me, as a hobbyist, as what they call a quote unquote card nerd, it's cool. And the show, to my point, I think the whole hobby elevated itself but the show didn't. A lot of people were disappointed when they saw eBay's booth or Topps booth, and every booth didn't look like that.
So that's what I was going to ask you.
Yes.
I was going to ask you because I'm curious about that, right? So I posted something on Instagram yesterday. It just said, do your part, right? And sometimes the hobby can be a little bit whiny. Like when prices were going down in April, May, I was like, everyone's kind of like a whiny little bitch. And I was like, you guys have to understand that to get this hobby to grow, you need to attract other people. And people don't want to come to a boring party. They want to come to a fun party, right? So I'm curious, how would you do that? How would you make things a little more culturally relevant for the show and the hobby?
Well, I think the show got close. Like I just mentioned eBay and I think what they did with ski and, I'm a big ski homer, so you're never going to hear me say the opposite. But overall, the amount of people that know nothing about cards that wrote me seeing on Instagram being like, can you get me one? Oh, that's awesome. Oh, now I get what Topps and Ski are doing. Now I get what Ski is doing. Just the cultural relevance of the Jordan and the Kanye and all the Chicago things he did. That was the touch of it. But that was the only aspect of it that we really saw. I think, one great opportunity, which we don't even play in at Bleecker, was breaking. Breaking has really elevated this entire hobby. Good, bad, left, right, Shopify liking it, who cares? At the end of the day, the amount of wax we saw at the show was almost disturbing to me. But the amount of breakers you saw at the show made it feel super, I'd say, commensurate.
Yep.
And so here you have the best breakers, the biggest breakers in America. And you have this breaking pavilion. And when I hear breaking pavilion, I expect to walk into breaking Disneyland. I expect to see the biggest breakers on stage, like Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, just like TriStar, ready to go. I'm going to see the biggest breaks ever. And there's absolutely nothing happening. It literally is just breakers breaking to their online audience. I think it was the Mamba Kids that did the big breakdown in Dallas that I saw online. That was 10 times bigger than anything I saw happen at the show.
The main stage, Mark. I mean, let's touch on that a little bit. I found it actually. I mean, I don't want to crap on anybody or anything, right? But I found it actually like annoying. Like it was talking in the background. You couldn't really have your own conversation. I don't know who was up there. The audio was pretty terrible, and they had 50 or 100 seats out there. I don't know who was listening. Maybe they needed to rest their feet because all you did was walk around the whole time. But you're 100% right. But how would you change it, right? Do you have that breaking going on during the show? What would you do?
I don't know because I don't do breaking, but I do believe that it's a moment. And I think that you have the biggest wax in the world, the most rarest stuff you've ever seen. You have the best personalities. You have the best breakers. Make that at 1 o'clock, at 2 o'clock, at 3 o'clock, and make that for every single breaker, not just the main stage. Make every breaker a ticketed event, something that we're going to, something we're showing up for. At 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock when the show ends, we all left with nothing official to go to. You have a breaking stage. Put Aoki on it.
Right.
Have him DJ.
That's a huge room, right? So at 6 o'clock when it's over, you just tell everybody, okay, now the main stage or this room is gonna be breaking room. Aoki, Ski. I mean, the guys are there, right? Get them up on stage.
We're all there, and we're walking across with our bag of cards bigger than us. Where it's 150 degrees. Our feet are killing us because there's no carpet in the Rosemont. There's no food. God knows if if we Gibsons one more time, if we're even gonna make it back physically to the show. And at the end of the day, we're all splintering off into random hotels, random different ballrooms, random parties, trade nights. I mean, that's a massive thing that happens outside the show.
Yeah.
But if you want to trade during the day, look, it's great for the dealers. All the dealers get their 20, 30% advantage, if not more, on any trades. But trading is the hobby. And trading is kind of, where we're finding it, Bleecker, what people want to do, especially when there's a down market and there's not a lot of cash being exchanged. The hobby still flourishes by trading. I know we did a ton of trading at the show, and we really landed on what we were hoping for. But there's really no love for trading. It's not even a focus. So, I just say the National did their best to stay open during COVID, and I'm sure it was a challenging year. But what they did from planning-wise to improve it from 2019 to today, it was just very underwhelming. And I don't say that as a snobbyist, let's call it. I say that as someone that people that are new to the hobby that are important to help keep the hobby relevant to the outsiders were just completely underwhelmed. and I can't look back at them and tell them they're wrong.
By the way, by the time you're hearing this, forget about it. I've already asked Andrew to go and reserve Snobbiest on Instagram as a page because that is awesome. I love the phrase. Before we turn that, $6 and change for a soda. So thank you. Every time I go to Bleecker, there is a cooler of Coke Zero. So thank you very much. I love this.
Yeah,
man.
everything's free at Bleecker. Sometimes even the wax if you pay close enough attention.
Oh, it's so nice. Good stuff. But
yeah,
you're right.
no,
But listen, Mark, you're right about I will tell you, it's my first time at the National. You're right about the breaking. It is what brings cool to this. It is what brings that wow moment. And I've talked about this before. You know, if you talk about the National as kind of like a casino, the breaking tables were where the people were going on a craps run. People were hitting roulette or someone was on a heater at blackjack and you hear, whoa, yeah. You know, the only excitement was coming out of that area. And I was shocked by how many people had tables at the National with cameras set up and they were breaking for people who weren't there. Like
that
you
was my
have
problem.
you have to be able to. How about a live break for only people who are there? You know, fill it there and get up on the main stage, right? I mean,
and I think that, look, at the end of the day, I don't know who takes ownership, right? We've heard a lot of people walking around the show telling us like, oh, hey, Bleecker, we should all get together and do it. Like, no, that shit's hard. No one's going to make money. It's going to be a fucking nightmare. You want to go to the National. You don't want to work the National. So, again, you got to, like, not listen to my animosity towards the lack of what I've hoped for innovation as something of you still respecting the fact that they pulled that shit off with Chicago almost going back to, like, DEF CON, right? I think what I'm just saying is like when you walked in, who greeted you at the National? Like
Andrew greeted me.
Well, that was different. You guys had a well. By the way, where was the podcasting floor? Where was Radio Row like the Super Bowl for me to go do 15, 20 interviews? Boom, 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 boom.
By the way, Mark, it's a genius. It's a genius idea.
But it's not genius. It's not genius because it's done everywhere else, right? We didn't get a bag that said National. And you put your stickers and your programs and your business cards. Like if you went to a vacuum cleaner show at the Javits Center, they give you a bag when you walk in for magnets. I mean, it's like, I guess that's my point. The hospitality of it. And you know, with us at Bleecker, with Christian, with Anthony, with Jacob, you know, hospitality is number one to us. And that's something that I just felt that we tried to do an event. The hotel said, you're not an official sponsor of the show. You can't do an event at the hotel. Call the show. Nope, you're not an official sponsor. We can't give you any access on the floor, and we won't approve you to go to the hotel. It's like, but we're trying to, and we just want to do something cool or good. Forget about the word cool. Something good for the hobby.
Zablow, you love business, right? You're a businessman through and through.
Sure.
And isn't part of the reason we love business? It's like it takes for healthy alternatives to pop up and steal McDonald's market share before they realize that they have to have a healthy menu. It's the same thing. Like we can't ask people that have been running a show one way for 20 years successfully to try to innovate. It has to be the new people that come in and innovate. Isn't that just truly what business and capitalism is about?
Yeah, and or the opposite of it, which is if you're not going to put up, shut up. So I'm going to bitch to you guys because you guys gave me this 10 for 10 floor to talk about the National. But unless I go produce that, I got no choice but to be excited for Atlantic City and pray they give us a table and let us become a good partner to them while I you know air my grievances. But yes,
you know what I noticed about you, Zablow, and this, and not to cut you off, we'll come back to it. One of the things that why I really loved giving you the floor for 10 for 10 is watching how your employees interacted. Right, so I think of you as like you're a great leader, but you're a leader that empowers people to be their best selves and like go out there and get them. So like Jacob, right? Jacob is someone I interacted with at the show. The guy was on this carpet-free floor for 10 hours, and then he was up all night doing trades. And he was back at it the next day. And I've been
smiling the whole time.
Yep. And I've been around enough businesses to know that that's a personality, but it also depends. Like the head, the body follows the head. Talk a little bit about that. Like you've been in business forever. Talk about the culture that you're building at Bleecker a little.
Man, you know, I think a lot of that ties back to Cogent, you know, the marketing agency that, you know, has really kind of set the tone for a lot of what we do and kind of how we approach everything. So even at Bleecker, you know, we have to make sure that our values, our morals, our vision ties back to that. one thing we do at Cogent when anyone starts is we make them talk about their 13-year-old self. Kind of, at 13, you kind of realize you may not be a professional basketball player or an astronaut. But we like to think if your 13-year-old self saw you today, would they be happy with, that kind of road you took professionally? And if not, at least what we like to say is get out of marketing because, Goldberg, you'll say it's not where you make $1 million from 20 to 30. So if you're not building the fun and not building the connections and work isn't a pleasure, go make money, especially in New York. Go work in real estate or something. So what we do is we have an exercise where you kind of fill out a little bit of what influenced you when you were 13, and it's fun. We talk about that a lot. And so, yeah, you talk about Jacob. Like, yes, Jacob is one of the hardest workers you'll ever meet in your life, no matter what his job is. But you got to have passion for this hobby to do what he did for that many hours. Carpet, no carpet, lugging around those heavy cases, dealing with all the ins and outs. That's why we come. I mean, that's what we love about the hobby. I think it's a little bit different with Bleecker, in the fact that we truly want to work in cards. It's not just about money. That's why you don't really see breaking. You don't really see a lot of us from social media selling things. Yes, we have private collection for some higher end cards that we're selling. We're marketing a LeBron Black PSA 10 refractor. Yet we traded for a 9 as well at the show, just to kind of continue having fun there. You may see some merch from us down the road that you may not. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we fucking love this. We were chasing a Jordan scoring Kings, half the show. We didn't get it. And that's sports, guys. At 13 years old, when I realized I couldn't be in the NBA, I still wanted to play sports. I still wanted to pretend 3, 2, 1 Jordan. So to us, that was sports. Might not have won that game, but we got to play a week of summer camp, a week of sports. So it's exhausting, it's tiring, but we make it up this week. We closed Monday. Probably haven't looked at a price the entire week of anything. And we love it. And I think, to a lot of what Cage was saying, that's what comes out when you show up. It really is people that love it. It's not really about the inventory. It's not really about what we're selling, what we're marketing. We do a lot of events bringing people in, but it's kind of like our living room. And so
it really is.
Yeah. So I think it's kind
of TV. It's great.
It's supposed to be. It's cards. It's trading cards. We want to have fun. And so where a lot of these great businesses have come in and innovated and made it a lot more serious, that's great. That gives me the confidence to continue doing what we're doing. But if you're having fun, if it's relevant, you feel like you're part of it, I think, even for Jake, where he may not be in the hobby for 20 years, we empowered Jake to cut 6-figure deals. He traded for Mantle rookies. He traded for that LeBron, PSA 9, which I think had an $80,000, $90,000
What was the coolest
value.
deal you guys did? What was the most memorable deal?
It was Hootie's deal.
Yeah, we had Anthony, one of our new employees, had his first sale, which was which was exciting. But no, I think we had a couple cards on the radar. We wanted a Jackie Robinson rookie for the new store that we're opening next door. We wanted a Mantle rookie opening for the store as well. And we were able to trade up for both of those. Forgive me, I don't know the ins and outs of each deal. We really wanted to get a Scoring Kings, which we weren't able to achieve. So that was a little bit of a bummer. But again, like I said, we kind of have this fun conversation going around the LeBron and the black refractor that we're marketing there in the 10. So to get the 9, I think that was a lot of fun as well. But look, I'm a collector of 90s knickknacks, so I was looking for Iverson and Shaq, random stuff. Coolest thing I saw that I didn't get was the PSA graded Type 1 photo slabs of Michael Jordan. They were anywhere from $5,000 to $35,000. I was really close on making that my purchase at the National, but ended up with my biggest purchase probably being an autograph from the great Hambino. So that was kind of where we went. So yeah, from 90 grand to 40, 90 grand to $40.
There you go.
I came home a very happy customer of the National. That is for sure.
if you guys don't know, but you watched our live, Cage and I, we walked by the Type 1 photos. And Cage, you want to explain what Type 1 is for people out there who don't know?
Sure, I think it might be the next big thing in the hobby. Certain photos, definitely, but a Type 1 photograph is a photograph that's actually produced from the negative, right? So as long as it's used, the negative is used to make that photograph. So there could be one, there could be 12, that are considered Type 1 photos, but those are the photos that were printed of that image directly from the negative. They're limited, especially the older ones are really limited. I have a feeling you're gonna start to see some, Babe Ruth ones. The Ruth bids farewell. Those type of ones in the Type 1 start to sell for some pretty obscene numbers. I think the pretty famous Ruth one only has like 11 or 12 of those out there. You're starting to see PSA grade them and see pop reports on them. And once you get that, it's sport. It's icons of sports like the Jordan you were looking at, Mark, and they're that limited. They start to fall in the same category as cards, right? It's, there's scarcity, there's a demand for it, and they are, when they're rare enough, people will spend money to get them for their cards.
Well, they
They're
are,
cool.
but they're also cool. I think that's what caught my eye. I think when you went around the show, when we talk about, hey, what did you see at the show? What did you not see at the show? Or what were people buying? We had great cards kind of around display and trade night, but everyone wanted Jordan rookies, Jordan PSA 8s. People were coming back over and over and over for the mantles, the vintage baseball. People wanted to trade up, consolidate, and get into safe stuff. But what I didn't see were interlakes. What I didn't see were a lot of the graded stars, the oversized ones. And to me, again, I think that there's an art to this. So I look at something oversized as more art than I do just the investment. Cage, you may understand sometimes I got to sell to my wife what all these PSAs slabs are laying around the house. So if I can get a really cool Jordan one of a final shot that is an investment, but it's something I can hang 3 of up in the house, maybe I get away with some PSA art that makes me, get away with it for my wife. Hey, really speaking of that, one quick insider tip for the newcomer. I probably should have done this a week before, but the newcomer married folks at the National, across the street is the Fashion Outlet Mall. They have some of the most, most well-known luxury brand outlet stores right there. So always try to break away for an hour or two, knock out a really smart gift to justify what's coming back with PSA when you're coming from the National. But no, to that, it's art to me. And sometimes, if I can buy something really cool PSA graded, that's something that can almost fly in my house as art, not just in my cupboard, as something that I remember. So that was
love it.
something we loving.
No, definitely. I mean, and it's cool. Some of the oversized stuff gets slept on, but there weren't a lot of interlakes there. There weren't a lot of the oversized stars, like the Gatorade one, the 5x7s, the larger ones. And I've shown a couple like Babe Ruth large, ones that I have postcard size, ones that are even bigger, like Gary Premiums and stuff like that. So, and there were definitely more. There were definitely more of those. What do you think of like historical stuff, Mark? Did you stop by any of those, like Abraham Lincoln autographs and stuff? Or is
There
that
was
kind of
something. There was something. I usually don't get too into it. Something that caught my eye. Look, Darren Ravel's table is always a history lesson in the hobby because he's always a
How
year
to
ahead of
not
that.
smile for an entire 48 hours?
I got to tell
Really?
you, I love Darren. We've talked on Clubhouse. We've talked all over the place. I really wanted Darren to just be like, hi. Now I'm going to give him like 18 passes because I'm sure he doesn't want to be in the booth. I'm sure he gets a lot of dumb questions. I'm sure he gets a lot of, miserable stuff. But yeah, we stopped by like 3 different times to say, hey. And he was just like not having it. So
I saw him on the street. He had like a little, those little carts that you carry all your cards, and one of his boxes fell off. I said, hey, Darren, do you need some help? And he looked at me, same face as at the booth. He's like, no. So, yeah, facts.
But
I have to. We're New Yorkers. We keep it candid. What can I do? I
look,
can't change it.
To his 13-year-old self's credit, I'm sure he had the time of his life.
yeah, I'm sure.
At the end of the day, what Darren has been able to bring, love it or not, good or bad, and he's been a a good supporter of Bleecker. So I want to be careful what I do and don't say. But
That's fine, Mark. Listen, we love them.
look. You're
I'm
always
giving
gonna
them
get you're always
passes.
gonna get transparency from even when I lie, Cage. So
Listen, I love you
it's
for it.
always
I love you
always
for it.
gonna be fair.
But we
Look,
love Darren. You know what I want to do, Mark, for you? I want to, because I want to hear Andrew's. I never heard about this 13-year-old thing. And we talked a bunch of times. We did a little bit of a dance before I was allowed to come to Bleecker, and you never asked me what my. So when I was 13, I wanted to be a lawyer. And if you could tell me when I was 13 that I could be a lawyer who could still be involved in cards, hell yeah, my 13-year-old self is probably going to be pretty happy with the last year. Before that, maybe not so much. But throw in the cards, man, my 13-year-old self, as long as I don't have to do that whole bar mitzvah thing again, forget about it, Mark. You take that out of 13. But
it
other
would
than
be
that,
great with these things, though. Come on, you would be excellent at the bar mitzvah
yeah, you
with
just
it.
have
With
somebody
the
reading it for you.
look, we had a client, Anthony, that we were doing some sales with, and he actually sent me his yearbook, and it was like, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" It was like, "Be rich, sell baseball cards," and all of that. Look, I think for me, what I do love about the National is I'm not there to buy a Ruth, a Mantle, a LeBron. Jake, to his credit, that's his fucking job. Christian, that was his job. Anthony Hootie, that was his job, right? So that was their 9 to 5. For me, yes, I had a little bit more of the luxury, and I know they did too. And actually, our friend Leighton from Vintage Breaks gave us that advice: put your fucking earbuds in, walk around and geek out, find the stuff you would love. And that's what I love about the National. That's something that can't be replaced at any other card show, no matter how cool it is, no matter how many celebrities show up, no matter how cool the merch is, the bags are, the carpet. You can have Escalades driving us with vaults everywhere and ski making cards galore. You can't replace those dealers that bring out the most like unique items ever. And that's something like meeting Carvin at the National, right? Like that's a treasure in itself, right?
Yeah.
So you can't just replace those type of things. So I love that about the National. I'm not a big historicals guy. I have recently, as we mentioned, our other buddy who used to work at ESPN and collects collectibles and doesn't say hi. I have paid attention to a few things. One thing being books. I think books are just smart. Obama, Jay-Z, all these great people. Sign
1984
books.
Orwell, dude.
But a normal 1992 massive celebrities book is $600 signed. Obama, these people are $600. Like presidents, right? So I like books a little. I started paying attention. I'm not going to say what I saw, but I saw something amazing. It wasn't enough money that I should have bought it, but I needed to think a little. So I'd actually got to now that I'm home, probably go buy it again. And if I do, I will share it. If not, and I don't get it, I'll share it anyway. But there is some cool historical stuff. I do think as a collector,
Baywatch poster signed by the entire cast. Is that what it is?
I wasn't a big Baywatch fan, but if there was a Thundercats one or the original Turtles cast, so I probably would have been with a Casey Jones autograph. I would have been
Lion-O or Chitaro? Which power? Who do you want? You want to be really fast?
I wasn't a Power Rangers guy, so
No, I mean for Thundercats, Lion-O.
Thundercats, yes. I don't know the names. I'm just
come
bullshitting
on,
you,
dude.
Cage.
Lion-O. Come on, Thundercats are the best.
I just
You know
remember
the
yelling
names.
Thundercats ho.
Oh, yeah, that's
years.
Lion-O. That's Lion-O.
Yeah, okay,
He's in charge. He was in charge of the Thundercats.
Can we talk about Women of the Hobby night? And
yes,
guys, I want to do a little preview about this. So it's Women of the Hobby, but it's not just exclusively for women. We want everyone to come. And this is, I think, the 4th trade night, and I've heard nothing but amazing things. Indoor area, breaking, there's an outdoor area. It's August in New York, which is maybe the best time of the year in New York. Talk to us about Women of the Hobby and your experience with the trade nights.
So trade nights, again, I think just goes into what we found was missing from the hobby. When we decided to open up Bleecker, we didn't really have the best plan. I really am an improvised type of person. I go with gut and fun and creativity and then kind of figure it out from there. We knew we had the right brand going. We knew we had the right space very early in New York during the pandemic to get in for the long term. When Clubhouse for a minute really became the trading card, newsletter, let's call it, to the hub for a minute. It was great for us because it allowed us to cut through and really understand, what does everyone want to see in an LCS? What's missing in the card store? And I literally would go on. I got kids, I got
Cage.
life, but I
They
can,
want to see Cage.
besides Cage, but all hours of the day and night, and you meet the most influential people or someone who just entered. And we got the most amazing feedback. And trading really became the thing that was not really, I don't want to say accepted, but it wasn't really like loved by any one host. The card stores didn't let you sit down and just trade. The shows obviously hate it. And we really liked it. And we do have this amazing indoor-outdoor space. So trade nights to us were something that made a lot of sense. What we learned very quickly was, wow, the amount of local influencers in New York City alone that will stop by, with Cage bringing his Jordan rookie, to people bringing, just some not very expensive collections, but very unique, a soccer person, a golf person, a Pokemon person. Father and son, we have one family that comes from Connecticut. We have people come up from Pennsylvania. But it just goes to show there's nowhere to fucking congregate for this hobby, that someone would come from Pennsylvania to New York on a Tuesday to just kick it with people around cards. So we've done this trade night, and over the last couple trade nights, which we're trying to do every 2-3 weeks, we've just asked fun people to host. So I think having a little bit of a theme, where we can elevate what happens in the hobby, is kind of cool to us. So yes, the opportunity with Black Jaded Wolf and the conversation around women in the hobby, and meeting breaks with Jess down at the National, and realizing we had a bunch of mutual friends from other lives, really made sense. Not to try to your point, say how many females can we get, to make it a women event at Bleecker, but more to just even bring awareness that there even is a movement around women in the hobby. And when you go to their Instagram page and you see the amount of people, and it was funny because I heard Sam's podcast, I heard her talk about, what she was doing. We had reached out to her. I'd bumped into her favorite player, and which I have to talk to her about when we were having lunch. So it was just all serendipity to us, and it felt really good. And so we're excited about that. Our next event after that will actually be a day event. It's on a Saturday with the Bagel Master, with Vadim. We're doing kind of a trade day. And we're going to make that a little bit more kid focused. And I think, when we talk about what's missing from the hobby, we hear a lot about kids. And I don't really agree, because when I walked around the National, there were more kids than I ever saw. And some of the best things I heard at the hobby were moms telling their kids, see, if you don't hold the box and you open it, it's worth $80 more today than when we bought it. That was really cool. My mom got me kind of through a lot of the hobby. So I love that. The other stuff that I heard was a dad telling another dealer that his son, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, that it brought great attributes to him. It taught him how to deal with professionals, taught him value of a dollar, taught him just a lot of, I forgot what some of the other stuff was. So it was really cool kind of what that was. So there's no lack of kids. Yeah, they can't go buy a $5 pack anymore. But the parents are buying them $150 pairs of sneakers. So it's all relative. It's like going to Vegas and you have a $10 bottle of water, or eating a $6, garbage at the National. It's just relative. So as much as kids can't get to the hobby because they can't walk into an LCS and buy it for a couple bucks like we did, it's relative to the other things they're buying. And maybe not every income class can buy cards, but there's tons of kids. And it is a way for parents to connect and teach them. Oh, the third thing, that the father said teaches them how to interact with adults, teaches them value of the dollar, and good, funny or not, said keeps them out of trouble. Like,
Right.
What's gonna happen? You gonna throw your slab at somebody? Like,
I've done it.
Cage, yeah, for Cage, when we were young, Yamaha got knocked off, right?
I've done it.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like,
if you were to throw a slab, which grading company slab would you use?
I know no one on this call would be able to throw a certain company slab, but I would probably only throw the PSAs that I have. So that's really kind of
So,
all I have.
so it's funny. Andrew mentioned that a bunch because one of the cool things was we ran into kids who were making deals, kids who were more informed about stuff than a lot of adults we've seen. And he said the same thing. And Andrew even talks about. I don't want to steal it, Andrew, but you talk about like businessmen who talk about how they right. So talk about. I'm chat with that for a second because we ran into. Go ahead.
It's fundamental. Like it's literally such a fundamental skill, and I love, and I hope we come back to like the questions our 13-year-old self, because a lot of the businessmen and mentors I watch now are because of what my 13-year-old self needed. But like Ed Milet, Patrick Bet-David, Gary, Andy Frisella. I mean, you go all the way across the board, businessmen in different areas right now that are popular on YouTube and run successful channels and successful businesses. They all talk about how their first gig was selling cards and like how much that taught them about business and cash flow management and negotiations and sales and all of this stuff. I wanted to say something about influencers though. There are influencers, that come in and they have huge cards, but what I've noticed, Kevin Nagandi, right? Awesome influencer, huge personality, been with ESPN for 15 years, but new to the hobby. And he goes and he interacted with Slab Stocks right at our little event after what was it, Morton's. And the influencer are asking the hobby, like kind of like the people that have been in the hobby for a long time for advice. And it's just kind of reverse of roles. And I think that's also cool.
I love it, Mark, because you talk about like culture, right? So Kevin, I ran into him on the street. So let's go to dinner. We went to dinner. We brought him back, and he came back to the hotel bar and like chatted with Slab Stocks was there, and a couple of our LukaNation members just asking questions, answering
Heroes.
questions. He was getting some info here. Heroes for sale. He's getting some info from them. What baseball card should I get? Who's a good prospect I should buy? And obviously, people were thrilled to be cutting it up with him as well. That's a cool thing, man. We need to hit more of that. You talk about like make it cool.
Yeah. Well, we make it approachable cool, right? I mean, Kevin was at the NBA draft the night before.
I know.
He was hosting the fucking draft in New York the night before. And then he flew the next day. He's got a wife and 2 kids. Flew the next day to the National to have, to really kind of, I think, one of 2 things. One, have the time of his life for his 13-year-old self, but 2, really show the hobby that he's committed. We're trying to do a lot of work with Kevin. We're big fans of Kevin. But I think the fact that he makes himself approachable, and he has 2 kids that are collectors, and you've seen them at the shows up in Connecticut. And that's kind of what's inspired a lot of what we're talking about, where we go to with the events. It's when we can start having those kids interact with each other, and bringing the parents in. Yes, we get enough moms coming down to Bleecker the week of because their kid wants cards or it's someone's birthday. But ultimately making that a bonding moment with them, that contributes to the hobby. Not just selling them the card, but saying, hey, come down and watch your child interact and learn some. Hey, by the way, how many of us have the story of how we got taken? The older dealer just took us. We all got it. It sucks. I got 100 of them. How many, I have too many good and bad stories, right? My mom, my dad, this, that. Kids stole my
Cage
card.
does that to me. He's like, go buy into Panini NFTs while he's over here making money on World of Women.
Look, you ever want to have those type of, talks about, go talk to Jason Kuntz about the AOL days of, really trying to, send a card and doing this. And kids stole my card once from California to Long Island. My mom I was 12 years old. My mom had to find his mom and blah, blah, blah. And, there was no Instagram to go put them on blast. I couldn't go call Lamine James. There was, that was the hobby, and I think if you love the hobby as a kid, when you make some money, it becomes your art. This is your Picasso. This is your Basquiat. This is your Banksy. Scoring Kings to me will always be that card. To some people, it's the 86 Fleer. To some people, it's to Rob Go. It's, obviously some things we'll get PSA ones in when we're lucky. But, ultimately, that's where the kids are important. It's not about that because there always won't be a Gary V network. How many Gary V's come along in the universe that can corral 1,000 of the most influential people and actually deliver, right? So, you have to really make sure you don't forget what's embryonic to growing the business. And I think a lot of the new card stores are really trying to do that in a good way. For us, we took what we learned on Clubhouse to heart. It's not the Simpsons, and that's what everyone thinks. It's the guy in the back. You can't touch anything. You can't ask for a price. nothing's for sale, but it is. We want to be the opposite.
I have a question about card stores, but Cage, I want to hear anything top of mind for you. I love having Zablow on, and I love that we had him on a Sunday because we haven't had a banter type episode in a long time.
No, this is great. I was going to let him end it with that. We're not the Simpsons. I mean, but you got a question, go for it. I mean,
Do you, with the other card stores, you've seen a lot of them open up in different cities. A lot of them have been established in other cities.
Yep.
You guys view each other as competition or collaboration?
It's as a brand, it's competition. Okay, let's not even pretend that anybody's not competing, right? And I don't say I'm competing for dollars because we saw at the show there's enough wax for everybody. Everybody can be subgraders, everybody can have slabs. From a brand though, we're all competing, aren't we? We're all competing for a brand. Other companies wearing our gear is a compliment. Seeing some of the people in my company wear Flushing Brakes gear, okay, all right, we're showing some love, but at the same time, like, hey, I got to step my game up as a brand owner. But at the same time, I have even spoke to Mike at Pullwax about, hey, open up next door to us in the West Village, make a block like Fairfax for sneakers in New York City. Give me a murderer's row of you fucking get to New York City, you're a kid, you go see Empire State Building, Statue of Liberty, you come down the Bleecker Street, and there's 12 card stores and 5 Pokemon shops and 3 memorabilia space and the #1 PSA, group submission spot ever. And look, why did we open up and go hard with we're opening a second store. We're opening a second LCS. Our first store was the social clubs. Fucking come, we could hang out, free food, drinks, do whatever we want. Jalen Ramsey wants to come watch a UFC fight, come hang till 3 a.m., make it your place. We don't care. But when we're selling $10, $15, $20,000 boxes of Prism to leaders of the hobby, and they're calling us back being like, where do we get a penny saver? There's nowhere to buy that. We're like, we need a card store. So for me, make it cool. We need as many of these as possible. Do I think it's good when all these wax peddlers are popping up, like the drug peddlers in Florida back in the day with the oxys? No, I don't think that's good. I see a lot of that as just bad for it's good for GTS, it's good for Panini, it's good for breakers maybe. It's not true hobbyist stuff, Do I think what we're seeing? Forgive me, you guys know better than me because my brain's not remember. But the guys in Kentucky that built that incredible store where it's like the most incredible Kentucky bar locker room you've ever seen. I forget the other group that built that Jordan bar. I think it's like the card bar or something, like things like that. Like it's like every Jordan card in their store. Like that shit's great. I wish they were next door to me stealing my business. Because if I'm real, right? If I'm not the snobbiest, if I'm real and my everything that goes into my brand has quality to it and has authenticity to it, and the people that fuck with it they're gonna come next door. Like I said, we have young women in New York City wanting our gear just because it speaks to something that touches them, that nothing to do with anything. So we invite that. We invite more LCSs, but in the right way. Do we think that anyone can compete with us in terms of doing what we do well? No. And that's just kind of our cogent mentality. And I think that gives us the confidence to say, let's put our money down, not just be guys trading and selling behind Instagram. Let's open up a store in New York City. Let's hire a staff. Let's make an investment behind advertising and sponsoring the right people in the hobby that are taking it to the next level. Let's really build that foundation. But I think we need more LCSs, to be honest with you. The right ways. I think everything should be unique. Like I said, like what Kentucky's doing, what the card bar's doing.
It'll be tough to compete with you, man, because obviously you've had energy your whole life. Like you've always been a pretty high energy guy, right? Seriously, right? Am I
Sure.
wrong?
Clearly.
Well, this is sports. I couldn't make half the teams I wanted to in high school and then on, right? So this is sports. whether it's about money or not, this is sports. So yes, this is where my energy comes out.
But you're high energy, but now you have 20 years of business experience to go along with that, right? Like that's the thing. When you're 18, 19, 20, you saw so many 20-year-old entrepreneurs at the National where a lot of us had that ambition, but when you add to ambition experience, that's a deadly combo.
Look at Card Collector, right? How old is he?
I don't know how old Ryan is, but I know he's got some experience.
He's not 35 years old.
No. He has a baby face, though. You can tell me.
Maybe he's 35, and you're going to tell me I'm the silliest human thing. But
No,
he does look a little. He looks a little younger than average. And you saw the line at his booth, and he runs one of the best events at night, right?
Oh,
if you're the National, how do you not partner with him? How do you not make him the face of the industry, right? Versus some memories, name things we've never heard of, and some old baseball looking. Come on, man.
Ryan does it right. He has a store. He has his booth. He does a podcast, and he does the trade night. You can't knock the guy.
And he's got a good woman next to him.
All right,
Cage. What's the question? What's the 13-year-old self? What's that interview question, Zablow? Can you ask Cage?
I already said it. I'm a lawyer. You gotta say it was a lawyer.
What's the question?
Well, the questions are what influenced you when you were 13 in music, movies, sports, news, and television. So what shows? What was actually popular when you were 13 that actually moved you? That you're actually, let's call it, playing with that live ammo today. For me. Grew up loving Charles Barkley, grew up loving Nike, grew up loving Air Max 95s, so just the fact that I still get to wear those for fun or for work even, that touches on it. Some of the movies and some of the music that I listened to at that age, as Wu-Tang Clan's album came out. I had a fucking Wu-Tang Clan table in my office before COVID, fell out.
This is good.
So when you go into that and then you talk about cards, a lot of people stop collecting cards at 13, right?
My mom gave my cards away. They said it was a waste of time.
Well, how many people hear that story? I collected, stopped as I got into like junior high school, maybe later after college, or recently I got back into it. But that's a gap from 13. So I think for a lot of card collectors, showing up to the National, your 13-year-old self comes out.
All right, Cage. Who do you think influenced me at 13?
Leo Tolstoy.
Oh, he's funny.
You know whose rookie it was when I was 13? So this will tell you a lot of influence.
Mark McGuire. Ken.
Oh, wow.
Ken Griffey Jr. was a rookie when I was 13. 13 years old. Ken Griffey Jr. That was it. Changed the whole. Baseball was cool, and that's why I collect baseball. That's why I with baseball, and baseball's not cool now.
And one of the coolest cards I saw at the show, Jacob and I were geeking out over. There is a Mantle Griffey Upper Deck dual sign card in multiple different grades I saw. Coolest fucking card I've seen in a while. I know Ski had bought one a while back. And just it just always stuck with me. But you don't see that unless you go to
I forget that who it was, and I apologize. One of our LukaNation members picked that up and showed it to us. One of our guys picked up the duel.
He did in a lower grade, I think, an 8 or a 7 or an 8 or a 9.
A really nice card.
And that's the National. You're gonna get those type of things. And if your 13-year-old self doesn't come out at the National, Goldberg, like, you shouldn't be there.
Maybe Altus cards, maybe? I forget. You guys tell me.
Well, in 7th, 8th grade, I dominated soccer, and I scored 24 goals. So it was like in 8 games. And everyone was like, oh, you're so talented, blah, 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 blah. But then I went to 9th grade, and I didn't make the varsity team. I made JV. And someone who influenced me, because I didn't think I was that talented, was Kobe and Kobe's work ethic. And I would say that's what got me to play college sports, and that mindset of just showing up and being better every day. I'm not going to lie, I lost that mindset at times, but that's probably the most influential. That's why I love Kobe so much.
And I think, look, do you have to, can you work in something that's not super exciting and fireworkific and still hit that? And I think that's a great example of it. Are you living life like Kobe? Are you bringing those Mamba qualities into your everyday? Whether you're in accounting or you're in bean counting, right? Like, as long as you're bringing, I think, those type of qualities that made you excited about what was going on, that you're checked into culture, that you're checked into what's relevant around you, because you're never more checked in when you're at that age, and that's just purity. Once that pressure of grades and college and fitting in and puberty and all that sets in, the innocence is gone. You get that aptitude test in school. They tell you can be a janitor. So to me, cards kind of brings that to everybody, and the fact that you do have parents, moms, dads, young boys, young girls, especially a lot of young girls. Forget about women of the hobby. I think you saw a lot of things about young girls at the show, collecting a lot of just maybe not sports, a lot of alternative. I think you're seeing a lot in movies and licensing.
Women's soccer, women's basketball, right?
Well, that also, I think, from a relevant standpoint, it's just like what's kind of more relevant than women's basketball right now. I mean,
Exactly.
I think Kobe kind of left that as one of his departing gifts.
Listen, I love talking to Mark. Andrew, take it home. I do want to give him credit, though, because we went 400 episodes, and it took Mark to bring up puberty for the first time, which is great. I mean, I'm surprised it took us this long to get there, because most of my jokes are from when I was going through puberty. I mean, they have not improved.
Every joke we still tell is from a movie we saw about kids going through that.
Exactly.
So we that's all we know as mature adults.
If I could bring it home, and I look forward to getting to know Mark Zablow, a lot better. But in the little bit that I have known you, I said this to Cage. Sometimes people come on our show and they have like canned responses prepared. I knew that wasn't going to be today's episode. I knew it was going to be like, dude, this is what's in my heart, right? And that's the kind of guy you are. From the little bit we've known each other, you always speak from the heart. You always care about others. It seems like you care about others more than you even care about yourself, and you want to see others flourish and succeed. And the hobby is part of that. So, man, candid, off of the cuff, we went a million different directions, but I got to say, shout out to you. Thank you for coming on. Guys, Bleecker Trade Night, Tuesday night, if you're in New York or around the city.
August 10th.
Thank you. And real quick, shout out to Rob at Rally for just connecting us.
Yes.
I think we skipped over just, all of it.
Yep.
Rob was kind enough to connect us. Rob's a solid introduction. Rob only does things that are super authentic. To what you're saying, Goldberg, to me, I would only go on this if we can have this type of conversation. And I feel that, when we first spoke about potentially working together, Cage, you were one of the first people that I said, hey, we can have that convo, and whether there's things offline we have to talk about or not. You guys are doing a great job really elevating the hobby. And I think that, to me, anyone who's looking to do that, we want to support you and be a partner with you at Bleecker. Whether that's something official like a sponsorship or something unofficial, whether that's being a part of Trade Night or us coming out and being a part of your event. You guys really kind of, I think, help set the tone of, what content creators, what just kind of people who are really kind of driving that awareness in a good way for the industry and an honest way. For me, 400 episodes, I'm honored that you'll even come and let me go no directions with you, because what I love about your content, and then we'll call this a Sunday, look at who you've had on. Look at the people that have come on your show, and I'm not going to rant it. We know it. And they've come on in the most important, controversial or not moments in the hobby. I don't want to say you're getting that story. You're the people that the real influencers are saying, if something happens, I need to go on your show because I know I can have the real, truthful, honest convo, and hopefully, which I believe, people will actually look and say, okay, we heard it here. We know that's kind of where the facts are. So to allow me to have this convo with you is awesome. It's kind of the coolest thing about one of the things we did about Bleecker, is being recognized by other people at your level and saying, hey, join what we're doing. If we can help elevate and help push that further, which, we think you guys can go way further than we will, we want to support that. So thank you. Thank you for having me today. It was great to just kind of riff on a Sunday, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, guys.
And thank you to our community, because all those nice things that Mark said, really, that's because the people who have supported us for these 400 episodes, that are like, which is why the guests, the big name guests, want to come on and be a part of it. So shout out to all you guys listening, sharing our content, commenting, supporting.
Hey, shout out to that community, because I can't tell you how many came up to me to tell me I'm lucky I cut the deal I did with you pre-national, because they all went out of their way to tell me how much bigger the checks are now coming your way from all the networking. Everyone wanted me to know, man, you got lucky on them. You should hear what these other companies are about to pay them.
Oh,
So
God.
thank you to your community as well, because I guarantee my check's not paying anybody's rent over there. But sounds like a couple of people may start doing it soon. So very happy to be a very small part of this growing family over here.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks,
That's
everybody.